He's busy barbecuing.
He barbecuing.
That's how it is.
He just barbecuing.
Are we already rolling, Andy? Yep. Let's see where the day takes us.
Let's just see.
Bro, it's like I feel like a new man. I haven't been in the studio for like 3 weeks.
Bro, I've been able to, hang on, let me turn this mic up. You've entrusted me as a guest host.
Yes.
That's hard.
Thank you, Sammy.
It is hard.
Well, not thank you for saying it's hard, but thank you for helping me with the hosting.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's easier when you have people you have relationship with.
For sure.
But it is really fun. But as the host of it, I mean, you just got to keep it up. And then you also don't want to turn it into like an interview style.
For sure.
But you want it to be like organic. So I don't think people realize how
it's hard. It's a
how
gift.
tough it is.
Yeah.
But I enjoy the stretch of it. And we had some fun times. I know we had a good conversation. I think it was last week?
Yeah. Was that the one with H?
Yeah. Some people got salt. Man, people getting salty. They gotta just listen. There's an art to having conversations face to face, not over the screen.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think but that was great. Chandler jumped on, Pastor Hare and myself. So it's been fun, but you got a gift.
It is much more difficult than I think people realize.
People think you're like, oh, I've been on podcasts, so then I could host them.
No, yeah.
You can't.
Which is why I lean towards you more so because we have a great team, but that specific hosting,
it's not easy.
Keeping the cadence going, keeping interest there, making sure that if there is other people at the table that everybody is
100%.
It feels like the hardest thing for me that I found with hosting.
Yeah.
And this might be, there's a lot of people interested in like doing interviews and podcasts and stuff nowadays is the trick to hosting is there's two sides to it. Number one, it's you need to be inquisitive yourself.
Yep.
If you're not, because a lot of
shut
people,
down. They're gonna say something, you're like, great thought, and then it just
because a lot of people get into like podcasting to just like share their opinions on stuff.
Yeah.
And if that's what, because that's what they think it is. It's just like, oh, you just talk about what you think about things. And if you're a single host, like let's just say you're like a political news commentator or someone that just talks about news of the day or whatever, then you could look at a camera and then it is all about you, which is really, really hard.
Yeah. For sure.
Oh my gosh.
Those guys, I got so much, I got so much respect for those guys that could carry a whole thing.
Yeah.
And they're doing sometimes an hour to 2 to 3 hours, which I'm like, dude, that's crazy.
It's tough.
Well, like a Rogan. Rogan, his is conversational, but he does what, 4 or 5
he does about 4 or 5 a week, and then his are anywhere between like 2 to 3 hours.
Which is so crazy.
And it works, though, because he's doing it the same way. I mean, we got inspiration from his style, not necessarily from what he's interested in, but from his style, which is he's always genuinely inquisitive about the person.
Yeah.
So, Joe doesn't interview for a means to get his opinion.
Right.
His opinion will perpetrate, but that's not what he's doing it. And then you have to know the guest, even if you're unfamiliar with them. Like, you got to go into it.
You got to do some
with
research.
A little bit of homework because you got to spark their interest. If you don't,
it could be a horrible interview.
Yeah, it's just bad. And then so you want to not always go for what you think they're known for or whatever. You want to kind of peel back the curtain. And like one thing I get a lot is like when we do have guests is they say like, oh, you brought a different side out of me that I haven't in any other podcast and blah, blah, blah. And that's essentially what you want is you want to be able to like, okay, I know this is what you talk about a lot, but let's put that aside.
For sure.
And let's go for something a little bit deeper than that. And then that's where people really start opening up and you get that kind of gold, which is, it takes a certain form of art.
100%.
And not everyone can fill in and even host that.
Yeah.
So thank you, bro. I got some weeks off. I mean, I was supposed to do it last week, but I got sick.
Yeah.
And outside of being sick, I took couple weeks off in general to get into a new rhythm of the year.
So good.
And I'm still, at least my throat is still recovering from that crazy flu that's gone around and got everybody.
It hit my fam, the kids. I somehow sidestepped it. Hopefully I don't get it at the tail end. You know what it's like after everything.
You're like, I made it.
I made it. You're like, right before.
Week. Yeah, for sure.
But what was cool too because I think the other team were maybe right after, but I was able to do a few. But Andy jumped on a few.
Oh, did he?
He put the headset behind, gave some input.
Good for him.
Maybe I'm thinking.
I heard, was it you or someone else told me that Andy got he's got some weight to his thoughts.
He does. Yeah.
I think he's a rich.
So we might have to pull him over to this side of the table sooner than later. Andy, was it okay what I shared? Was what I shared? Did I host good? What? Hosted great. Oh, look at that!
Look at that!
What an encouragement! What an encourager!
Andy, you never know what you're gonna get, man.
No, but it was
like a box of chocolates.
No, but it was. It's been fun. It's been so great. But we're grateful that the host is back in the right seat.
Thank you, bro. Feels good. I feel rested.
Yep.
Feel like I got energy.
And tell the people, we don't know what we're going to talk about. You were just like, hey, let's talk.
No,
okay,
I
let's
don't
go.
know what we're going to talk about.
And so that's what's so fun. Is figuring out where we're going to go into.
Well, we got some I mean,
we got a lot we can talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot that could talk about. And I know when as this episode's going to drop, I mean, I think some of the let me do an update. We'll see what happens.
Let's do an update.
But like I took a couple weeks off.
Yeah.
But because of this podcast and other things, I've got a lot of invitations to talk about regularly in the media kind of broadcast space.
Yep.
And because we have to flesh out, because on this podcast we flesh out a lot of ideas. We don't touch every topic. We touch what we're interested in.
Yeah.
But we got so I'll go to Nashville next week talking at this radio broadcasters convention, and I'm doing a breakout session on storytelling, broadcast, and AI. So but next week as well, which will drop and we'll probably talk about it, is one of my heroes is a guy named Carey Nieuwhof. Many people in the church space know of Carey as he's got the #1 Christian leadership podcast in America.
Just a legend.
To share on Carey's podcast.
It's huge. And you've done it already before.
I've done it a couple times. Yep. Yeah. I've done it a couple times. I've got to do a preaching class for his, he calls it a master's class.
So cool.
So got to do a thing with him. And then, so a couple weeks ago, you know this.
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago.
Which, by the way, hang on, I'll let you say, but here's what's cool. Because, we're in Miami for the Past Together, which we talked about with Vu.
Yeah.
So Adam is driving, and the biggest flex of all flex, we're driving, maps are up
the
there.
little CarPlay
and on the CarPlay, there you see Carey Nieuwhof coming up, and he's like, look it, I didn't even try it. But it's just like...
bunch of pastors in the car.
Yeah. But how cool is it to like... it's just such a big deal. And having your voice on those podcasts, which you're going to talk about what you're going to do, it's just such a crazy opportunity that you have what you built towards. But how cool is that? Like, because Carey's a hero to all of us.
Yeah.
So to have him be like, hey, we want your voice. What's your input? Speak into it. And you're really going to speak for the millennials, kind of?
I guess, I guess like we're minorities and millennials, which is like that's a huge.
Yeah, he's like, can you speak for these two groups, please?
Exactly. It's like,
that all disagree with each other,
which is like the #1, group, the #1 groups that are talked about, in America right now. But yeah, Carey just basically, we were talking, and he said, hey, there's a lot of division going on in America. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of topics that is being discussed in America right now, like Minneapolis and ICE and, President Trump, and even recently a post-President Trump's staff did or whatever, but he's responsible at the end of the day. It's his account. Mm-hmm. He's responsible for the things he shares, and even the way that him and his administration handled this post about Obama is really, wasn't wise.
Yeah, super disappointing.
Disappointing on a leadership space and
for sure.
Just in general. So you have that, and then you have going back 4 or 5 months ago, you have Charlie Kirk, and then going 4 or 5 months ago before that, you have election season. So you had like Kamala and Trump and all these things, and kind of right now in the middle, you have these you have pastors, and you have what you would call, the silent center majority of pastors. Mm-hmm. And then you have what you would call fringe pastors from left and right.
Yep.
And so you have these ultra right, conservative pastors who are basically every Sunday is a sermon plus a news recap of the week. And how it relates and not relates and all that.
And if you don't do this, you're not a believer. Sometimes, how that it'll put that pressure.
Exactly. And a lot of, if your pastor's not doing blank,
you should leave your church,
which first time in modern history that type of language
for sure
has been used. And then you got the far left, more so liberal pastors, the one that you see on the news a lot, who misrepresent everything's about Jesus and justice, and Jesus and liberation, and Jesus doesn't care about sexuality. Jesus doesn't care about marriage as defined in the Bible, about which we would call it a liberal, not politic, a liberal theology.
Yep.
So you got those fringe things, but those people are living on social media, those pastors.
And those fringes are the loudest when the silent majority are probably 90% or more?
Probably.
And then the 10%, 5 on each side probably, and it gives or takes. Those are the loudest, and it puts those silent majority on like, what do I do?
Right. And it's like, what do I do, and what should other Christians be responding about? And so Carrie, he reached out and he said, hey, I'm gonna get 3 leaders together on a podcast to give their opinion on how to handle some of these things, and also what their thoughts are on some of these things. And he had said that I was one of the first people that he thought of. And so there's another. And the reason why I talk about it is because it's going to be coming out, and we'll point to it if anyone's interested.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people always want to know, like, hey, Adam, what's your view on some of these political things? And maybe there'll be a day I'll talk about it more, but the reason why I don't is, number one, I don't care about it as much as you probably do.
Yeah.
That's probably the more so of the truth.
Yeah.
And number 2 is it doesn't affect my faith. Mm-hmm. And number 3 is I want to preach the Bible and preach sanctification more than I want to preach, your political passion that's going to change in 3 weeks. And even the identity, right? We all have our own, we all have our own culture that is important to us.
Yeah.
Right? So for Latinos, immigration's a big conversation.
For sure.
Right?
Massive. Yeah.
If you're an African-American, race, DEI, Trump's recent post portraying Michelle and Barack on top of monkeys is like, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And you see the identity, and I'm not saying none of these things shouldn't be.
Totally.
It's just we take our, like you didn't see, like you saw Latinos somewhat get mad about Trump's post, but not like an African-American.
Right.
And then I know more African-Americans than I know of any people in culture. Is like, and you see African-Americans who are less vocal about ICE, and they go, I don't know anything about it, I don't know, and some will be a little vocal, and at the end of the day,
we all have our little like passion points, or pain points, echo chamber triggers that happen, and those that you mentioned, and even like you think of with a few years ago during the COVID time and the whole like Stop Asian Hate stuff that was going on. So there's so many different things depending on our ethnic background or our social background that really will be things that certain things we relate to, but then even talk about, and then others were like, we don't have the information,
that's
or we
what
just
you're passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it comes down to is like, I had an ethics professor back in college. I've done it in my preaching before, but basically my ethics professor said, conviction.
Jeffy boy's calling right now.
Oh, he's here. He's here on campus. Right?
He is?
Tell him to come to the podcast room. I guess he got a meeting with somebody here on campus. Jeff T. Osborne.
That's Jeff. He might
somewhere
pop in.
Somewhere around it.
Yeah.
So I had this ethics professor, and he said, it always stuck out to me because as someone who studied debate, philosophy, apologetics, which was my background, this is what really stuck with me in understanding people. Mm-hmm. And that's why I frame my language the way I do at times, is because he said, hey, conviction is like a spider web. Mm-hmm. And when a spider builds a web, the strongest point of capture and friction is at the center. So if you see a spider web, it's loose on the outer webs, and it gets really tightly pumped. You just think of a massive spider web. It's like the more you go in the center, the webs are really tight.
Yeah.
The spider does a lot of work to strengthen the center.
Yeah.
And then the further it goes out, it's like one piece is connected to this tree, this thing. And it's kind of got these loose connections, because if one of those loose connections falls, it's still got something else it can grab onto. But then if you interrupt the center, the whole web will collapse. And so the center web is its strongest point. And what we learned in ethics is, for individuals, you don't know what is the strongest point to the center of their web is.
Yeah.
You and I wouldn't, the only way you and I would discover that for one another is through conversation, right? So if, for you, Sammy, it's like if you love, you like, oh, I love Chick-fil-A. And I go, man, but I got this place called Raising Cane's you got to try.
Right.
Well, let's just say you've had Chick-fil-A 6 times. It would probably be relatively easy for me to get you to be open
to try Raising
Cane's and even probably love it.
Yep.
You're like, oh, I love Chick-fil-A, but I've been there 6 times, this and that. Well, what would happen if you were related to the Cathy family, who were the inventors of Chick-fil-A?
Yeah, I ain't leaving.
How hard would it be for me to convince you that Raising Cane's is better? A lot harder.
Oh, yeah, it'd be impossible.
You're like, I grew up on this.
Yeah, for sure.
My first meal was a chicken tender.
Yeah, I got stocks in this.
I got stocks in this.
I ain't leaving.
My family's legacy is connected to this.
100%.
So I wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
So if I walked in the room and I'm like, you want to know the worst restaurant in the world that I can't stand is Chick-fil-A, and I didn't know that you were in the family or you taking our area in and out and you weren't related to someone like to In-N-Out family, you would sit there and be like, man, I'm so offended.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you would walk away and be like, I hate Adam.
Yeah.
And then one day I sit with you a year later, I'm like, Sammy, what's your beef with me? And you're like, bro, a year ago when we first met, you came in and you said you hate Chick-fil-A and it's the worst restaurant in the world.
And then you were like, I don't even mean that. I was just saying it. But like without realizing.
I had no idea how close this was to your
You polarized us because of what you said in the room.
Exactly, without me
even
being
meaning
aware
to.
of who was in the room, aware. Now, do you got to go interview everyone before you share your opinion? Not necessarily, but you got to be mindful of the language and the wording. And right now we're living in a space with honestly where like some of the worst culprits of not caring about what's important to people's ethic are pastors who are on the fringe.
Like, I'm just going to say it. I don't care who's offended.
I don't care because Jesus was offensive.
And here's the thing. Here's my thing with that too is like, it feels like that silent, a majority that's in between the two, that 90%.
The vocal minority is what you mean.
Yeah, sorry. Right, yeah. Vocal minority. That group right there, it feels like it's a lot of them are like politically nomadic, meaning they don't want to be tied to one or another. Hey, you have to do this or you're no longer a part of this group. And they're like, no, it's about like, even like as we go pastor in Huntington Beach and even pastor in here, just like you, we want to pastor Chandler and I, just like you guys and here at Patriot, we want to pastor everybody.
Yeah.
So we want to preach the gospel. That's what we care more about in the discipleship areas. Doesn't mean that we don't have different things that we have a personal pain point on, right? Like even being Latino with the immigration stuff. But then what we want to discuss is we want to discuss who Jesus is, walking with people. And then from there, we could go forward. But I think a lot of pastors and leaders, and especially in the age of social media, not just pastors and leaders, but that influencer, right?
Yeah.
You're posting to trigger people or to get clicks at times. Or like we just said, you're just sharing and you're like, I don't care. I'm a prophet. I don't care what I say. I hope it convicts you. But you're not realizing probably in a year or two, or even if you look 2 years back, what you're so care about now, you didn't care about before, and that might change again. So if you do have a level of influence, the first question is, God, how do I steward that?
Yeah.
And then I think the other thing that Chandler and I really feel convicted on is, and I think we do at Patriot as well, is I want to be around lost people. Mm-hmm. I want to be around people that don't know Jesus. And I want to walk with them into Jesus. So, for example, right, like how everyone got mad at the Super Bowl, Bad Bunny, all this stuff. And, I'm Puerto Rican, so obviously my belief is I was excited about it. I love Bad Bunny. But all that stuff was great. But people want to nitpick at like, oh, this was there, this was there, this was there. And one of the things I want to tell people is like, guys, like, he is not a confessing believer. Some of these people are not confessing believers. And again, you might not like me in this area, but I'm like, with the lost, we don't want people to walk in the ways of God before they encounter the love of God. Because if we have people walk in God's ways before they encounter God's love, that's religion.
Yeah.
And so for Chandler and I want to love people into what God's saying. And when I say love, I'm not saying in the place of, hey, God loves you, stay the way you are.
Yeah, full acceptance.
We're not saying full acceptance. We're saying, hey, God loves you, so he loves you so much, he doesn't want to leave you the same. There is reality of sin. There is a reality of what we talked about with marriage. And it's not just only about justice and liberation. But the truth is, I feel like what we want to do is we want to walk with people that don't know Jesus, and we want to walk with people on the other side of the aisle so that we can bring it together. And the beauty of it, I think we were talking about this with Heron and Chandler, which is so funny why people got salty about it, is we were talking about it's okay to disagree.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to have disagreements and walk forward together and learn about it. And so I think that there's this trend of like, I don't care what you think if you're not doing this. Like, there's these ultimatums, like you said, it's the first time in history.
Yeah.
And that's the thing to me, I feel like one thing, and
it goes from disagreeing to personal attack. So it's like, this is the immaturity. This is where we've lost ourselves right now when it comes to disagreement.
Yeah.
Like, in the past, you could disagree off of an ideology, off of a thought, off of a thing that we would say, especially as Christians, we would say aren't majors. They're minors, right? Mm-hmm. And what would generally happen is you're like, yeah, I disagree with that. I don't see eye to eye. I'm going to move on.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's like, well, I don't agree with that, Sammy, and I don't like your clothes.
Yeah.
I don't like your style. Your style's whack. You know, why do you do? And you're like,
what did I do?
Bro, this is, God, your argument has lost so much credibility, and this is what people need to realize. Like, the moment, and you see this all the time in social media, they're like, oh, that's why you're a single mom, or that's why all of a sudden, in a person's opinion, people are looking at their identity, who they are, what's going on, and then now they shape it, and they're like, yeah, that's why the way you are, or that's why this. And it goes into personal attacks rather than, hey, why don't you be smarter than that and
steward it
and disagree intellectually and then move on. You don't have to. Now, if you're somehow trying to connect humor or whatever, then whatever, you know, that's another thing. But at the same time.
And it's hard to hear tone over online, right? Unless you're recording it. But if you're commenting it,
for sure,
you don't know how to interpret it. I might comment something as a joke, but someone's taking it super serious.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it's hard, where it's like, use both that common sense, but also wisdom of like, what do you want to influence people in a true way?
And I'll tell people, like, if someone DMs me, I'll be like, hey, I'm taking your question offensively. Is this what you mean?
Yeah.
Or do you mean something else? Like, nowadays, I'll tell people.
Shoot it straight.
Right away, like, hey, are you trying to offend me? Because it's working, and my next response is going to match you.
Yeah, for sure.
It's going to match your pettiness.
100%.
But then I give them enough time to oh my God. Like, the amount of times I've, like, gotten DMs on stuff,
and then
I felt like
back,
a person was, like, really nasty.
Yeah.
And then I hit them back with, like, not being nasty, but just, like, matching their energy.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. That is not what I meant at all. Oh my goodness. And then they like super clarify. And it's like, you should do that on the front end.
Yeah.
You should be very clear. You should be very clarified, because that that short kind of like, but you're a hypocrite because like if you call someone a hypocrite, if you call someone a phony, if you call someone wrong in something, like, you're going to get the same energy back. And then you're not going to build a bridge. You're not going to get an authentic answer. And so it's really being mindful in today's age.
So true.
Because we have these, like, social media personas, and then we have these in-person personas.
Oh, yeah.
And I've rarely met, it's happened a couple of times, but I've rarely met people that had the same energy in person
that they do
than
online.
They have. And most of our friend crew know that I'm very famous for offering Zooms to people who have issues with me, because the energy changes. And you don't, my thing is, I won't argue with you on social media because you have AI and Google at your disposal.
100%.
And I refuse to debate with a robot.
Yeah, for sure.
So to me, I'm always like, hey, let's get on a call, in person, Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
So that I could see your eyes, and I could see, do you really believe what it is that you said that is a conviction?
Yep.
Or is this something that you're being informed by your vein of social media that you've fallen in love with, and you're regurgitating like vomit everything else you've seen? The amount of times I'll get, hey, watch this. I don't need to watch that. Why don't you tell me what it says?
Yeah.
I
don't know
can't.
what it.
Okay, well, I'm not going to watch something
if you can't explain it.
If you can't explain it,
that
goes back to school. You know, like,
for sure.
If it is your conviction, share with me. Even if your conviction sounds elementary, share it with me.
Yeah.
I'm not concerned with this video from a guy who gets paid millions of dollars a year to literally be so well spoken to the camera. Like, I'm not listening to that guy.
For sure.
Because that guy is a minority to what the rest of the world looks like in terms of how we shape ideas and discuss things and stuff like that. And so, I think, within this age, you can also we've created these these dividing walls that you have to be all or nothing with things.
So true.
And that's not the way the world is.
No.
It's not, I can say, hey, I like this, but I really don't like this about what this, nowadays it's well, if there's anything you don't like about that person, you just got to throw them out.
Yeah.
And it's where did we get this from?
Yeah. Have we ever done that?
Yeah.
But it's just such a crazy way to think through. And even part of the thing that I really love about this podcast and other forms similar to it is we have time to process and just share. We're getting raw, vulnerable thoughts that obviously we've thought about, but it's time to process where we have to use wisdom in it, but we have to also say, hey, I'm in process right now. This is what I think. So even for example, for just right here where I was like, oh, the silent majority, you're like, no, the vocal majority. I was like, oh yeah, that's it. We have to have humility in our language of saying, this is where I land on it, but I'm open to hearing other things.
Yeah.
And I'm still on a process. Now, there is wisdom to know too. One thing I would tell people that live on social media, and that's fine if that's what you feel called to, is realize everything you post is recorded. So so when you try and do something in 10, 15, 20 years, they got to pull up that really dumb article or video that you made. So be mindful of that. Doesn't mean we have to be perfect. That's the worry. It's do I have to say everything perfect? No, you don't have to be perfect. Be open, but also to the same level. If I'm so leave your church if your pastor doesn't do this. So then when I make a mistake, people are going to hold me to that same standard, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's know how you come across.
A lot of people are reaping what they're sowing right now, and they will be much more in the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Way more.
Whatever you sow, you will 100% reap.
Just it says to the level in James, to the level of mercy you give, that's to the level you will be given back.
Yeah.
Mercy triumphs over judgment. So I want to be a person with a ton of mercy. I want to talk with people. Same with you. Is another thing is. Let's just, if you're only saying it to a camera or in a comment section, you would never say to that person, let that be a question. Whenever you comment, whatever video you record, be if I was standing in front of the person that believes the complete opposite, would I say it the same way? Mm-hmm. If I was coming after you for a comment, would I say it the same way in your face? If not, just don't do it and change the language or figure it out. And I think those are good things just to think about in the midst of how polarizing society is. I believe, and I would love to hear your thoughts, it's going to swing back. Because I think so many people are seeing this is so polarizing. This isn't how it's been before. So I feel that trend, obviously you'll always have polarizing sides, but that vocal majority is no, we're going to build this around tables. We're going to build this around conversations, and we're going to be okay to disagree and be on that journey and process.
Yeah, I think in theory, I want to say I agree to that. I think that we're going to
swing back some ways,
Maybe. The only reason why I'm skeptical that that's going to happen is because if the algorithms for social media, the next generation
keep feeding you.
Yeah, the next generation isn't changing.
Yeah.
And I think the New York Times
did you see the article I sent it to you?
You sent it?
Yeah.
The New York Times said that
this isn't a shot at Gen Z.
No. But
this is from New York Times.
Yeah, basically the paraphrase is Gen Z is the first young generation dumber statistically than the previous one.
Sorry, Andy.
So,
just kidding. We love you, Andy. We love you though. That's not you.
So put this in perspective. So for baby boomers, take the silent generation, which is people in their 80s, 90s. So silent generation, kind of World War II children generation, boomers came up and statistically, by and large, were smarter than the silent generation. Then Gen X came, and with the advent of technology and everything else and modern education standards, Gen X tested smarter than baby boomers. Millennials tested smarter than Gen Xers. Gen Z is not testing smarter than millennials. Millennials are still smarter than Gen Z, which is not a good thing.
Yeah, for sure.
If all that data is true of what it suggests and all that kind of stuff like that, and even the awareness of Gen Z is much more different than the awareness, self-awareness.
I agree with that.
Than previous generations. And so you take that model in mind, right? And you multiply that over the next decade, where Gen Z is going to be.
I'm hoping Gen A just goes 30s. Like, yo, they so dumb. Gen Alpha be like, yo, listen, Gen Z. No, we love Gen Z, but that is that's just a real thing just to look at. Like,
if you're Gen Z and you say, well, how do I stand out? Maybe you stand out. Become really good at critical thinking.
I think original thought is huge.
Become really good at not being sheepish, not being argumentative, but be a learner, be someone who's hungry.
Be collaborative. Don't stand on one thing or another. Don't just listen to your algorithm. Start to try and think about.
That's what we love about Beyond the Letter. What we try to process is like the amount of times people are like, hey, I didn't agree with something you said. Like recently, I was talking to someone in our church and I made some jokes about homeschool kids or whatever. And the mom like called me out. She's like, I don't agree with what you said about homeschool kids. Yeah. And I'm like, man, it's great. Because I don't want you to agree with me. And then she made a good point, because I was like, well, you got to admit that, homeschool kids can tend to be a little weird, strange, And she's like, and public school kids aren't weird. And I was like,
good point.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Yeah, I mean, I don't have any data. It's not an argument of data. It's an argument of opinion.
Yeah.
And then that was like, it's great, because you should be able to offer a space where people go, wow, never thought of that before. Let me think about that deeper.
So good.
And then, I thought about it deeper. I don't agree, and here's why.
Yeah.
Or I do agree, and here's why. Even if people come to me like, hey, Adam, I agree with what you think about blank. I want them to be able to say, because X, Y, and Z, not just because, well, you're smart and your argument sounded like it was better than the other guy's argument.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's not what the process of critical thinking is. The process of critical thinking is, here's what I've studied about it, or I'm aware of it. Here's what I'm looking into deeper. Here's what I believe right now.
Yeah.
Hey, BTL family. One of the quiet questions that shapes our faith more than we realize is whether we actually feel secure with God. When assurance feels unclear, it can affect the way we pray, the way we obey, and the way we relate to God over time. That's why I wrote a devotional called Without a Doubt. It's a 7-day journey focused on salvation and assurance, helping believers rest in the truth of what God has already accomplished. This devotional is meant to slow things down, center Scripture, and ground your confidence where it belongs in Jesus. You can get a copy of that devotional today at adammessa.org. Let's jump into the show. The interview I'm going to do with Carrie. I'm doing it with two people who have their doctorates in, theology. And Dr. Ed Stetzer is one of them, who's like one of the most legendary, theologians that we have today. So it's like you got me, and then you got people that are like,
hey, you got your doctorate from the Streets University. Come on, somebody.
The Streets University. And I'm going to be talking about, race. It's like as if that's an easy conversation to have, 100%. Theology and race and other stuff. But I'm just going into it because I don't know. I actually today got sent questions of where it's going to go, but it could go anywhere. And
will this come out after or before? Do you know?
The podcast the one with Carrie will come out probably a week after this episode airs.
So dope.
It's going to be about the same time.
Yeah.
Because I shoot it next week, and this episode is coming out in a bit too. So it's around the same time.
That's so cool.
And what I'm trying to do is like, when I answer in the interview, because I know so many pastors and leaders, and I know the way that the hive mentality thinks right now, especially people on the fringe, is like, well, you said, and then and then they go after that. And so what I'm trying to do is think as critical as process. And you and some of our friends have been helping me kind of massage some of the stuff that I'm going to share, because I want to be clear.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, so many people you hear that are like, and Jesus, and you're like, bro, you didn't say a verse. You didn't none of us even know what you're talking about. And so if I talk about something, I not only want to be very clear, I want to be data informed.
Yeah, so good.
I don't want to be like, well, I have two friends and they're Gen Z and they say, it's like,
they're super smart.
Andy's brilliant, but I can't judge all of Gen Z off of knowing Andy.
100%.
You got to look at the data and then speak into it. And then you can actually then from there help shape an alternative. So what I'm trying to do going into this with an audience who's unfamiliar with me, a lot of people who watch Beyond the Letter, they're familiar with me. I can make a statement
And
a lot of people who listen to it enough, they'll even say, "Oh, what Adam means is," they'll even give me grace.
Yeah.
Because like, "Oh, I know him. That's not."
But you're on a platform that you don't have your audience.
I don't have people that know me. These are people stepping into it more often than not to be critical.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they don't know me, and it's about polarizing conversations.
Oh yeah.
And so what I'm trying to do is I'm going to try to, allegorize and parable as much as possible like Jesus did to kind of show the foolishness of our thinking.
Yeah.
But also show, with enough data that these blanket statements that a lot of pastors and leaders have been using to polarize people, to say stop going to someone's church because of blank, it's not as cut and sew as it seems.
Yeah.
And it's not as clean cut as it seems. And at some point, this, what I call is the three-headed hydra that a lot of, not just pastors, but everyone is creating. And these three-headed hydras is what I mean by that is like, there's these convictions. If you take a three-headed hydra, and if you know it through Greek mythology, you cut one head off, it grows two more. So the idea of a hydra is you have these few issues that people claim is their issue, right? And then in an argument, if you cut it off, and it'll just spur out two more, and then now you have a five-headed hydra. What a lot of pastors and even people who aren't being based critically with their thinking of what their conviction is, because I don't even mind someone disagreeing with me or having a different conviction. But what
just
they're
make
doing
sure
is
you also have like backing too.
Exactly.
So
make
like,
sure
I'd be like, I disagree. And then you're like, okay, tell me your thought. But if you're like, well, two of my buddies, it's hard to trust versus being like, well, here's the data and here's what I think.
Yeah.
So critically thinking.
You critically think it, and then or you address it and you answer it, and then they go, well, on to the next thing we disagree with.
Yeah.
No,
let's discuss it.
No. Am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah, for sure.
Like, no, am I right? Because when you were on your pulpit and when you were on it, like one of my favorite, I have a buddy yesterday, some guy posted, on posted social media was like, he's another pastor. Your pastor is not a real pastor if he has done, and it's all politics stuff.
Yeah.
Well, my buddy, I didn't even know he knew this guy. He just screenshots a text where he texts him, was like, how dare you? And just starts calling this dude out. And he didn't expect. He just thought his little social media personality
is okay and untouchable.
And no real friend that he has that thinks different than him is going to have the what's to reach out to him. And this buddy who sends me the thing, he's just he's like, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of people hiding behind dividing screens, thinking that we're not going to see each other at the next pastor's conference.
100%.
That I don't have his number and I'm not going to hit him up. And he did. And I was like, man, I respect that. I don't know that guy. I don't have a relationship with that guy. But I'm like, I respect that because what you're showing him is you can't hide behind this screen. You're going to have to. And for me, you and I talked about this with some of the guys. Like, I am getting to a place where I don't want to be more confrontational because of one of the main reasons why I'm not confrontational. I am confrontational. The reason why I subdue it is because I'm aware of
how you could come across.
I'm aware of how I can come across. I'm actually, and I don't mean this arrogantly, I'm aware that I can argue better than the average person. And so, even if I'm wrong, I tell people all the time, like, even if I'm wrong, I could probably still make it sound like I could win just because my background is in philosophy and theology, which is debate. And, like, if you want to do it, we can do it. And so I'd rather like go a little bit more quieter for the sake of everyone not seeing me kind of as this like intellectual bully.
Yeah.
But I am getting to a place where like, and you know this, like we're going into enough rooms where I'm like, that guy just called out another pastor and like caused half his church to leave. But then 4 months later, the church came back because they fell for
100%.
Like some okey doke political, ideology that then once people came to and were like, what do we even do? People went back to their church and I'm like, you added, whether it was consciously, subconscious, whatever, like, but this polarization and this like, you're using people's politics to get people angry, and your church is one race, one thinking. You don't have a diverse congregation.
Very monolithic.
And so I'm like, I am kind of getting in a place where I'm like, I don't want to shake your hand. I'm sorry. I
think part of what we're doing is, and we're all doing, is we're at the stage of we got to hold the line, where we're going to hold the line. And that's what I love about our buddy who texted him personally.
Yeah.
Because he goes, instead of comment, which you could comment, because whatever you post online,
it's a free
country. If you post it, we could talk about it. But I love that our buddy texted him personally and said, we're holding the line, saying that's not okay. Now, if you believe certain things, that's fine, but to put it on everybody else, and to me, I think part of it is, even you go back to that political side where people on the left and right, they disagree on purpose in front of each other. They're at the same restaurants.
Oh man,
the same bars.
They're backed by, most of the time, the same donors.
So it's all a play.
Yeah.
So not always it's a play to get us to disagree, so that and that's not everybody, but that's just the reality. So what we got to do is, we can't let that slip into our spiritual side, into the church, where we're supposed to walk with people that are different. Here's one of my favorite things. Jesus, when he chose his 12 disciples, he didn't choose all zealots, not all fishermen, right? Not all tax collectors. They were all different. And I think part of it is that's who we're supposed to steward. So I think it's really important as a leader, whether you be a pastor, influencer, whatever it is, look at your influence, your circle, and just see, like, is everyone a yes man and yes woman? Is everyone the same ethnicity, thinking pattern, whatever it is? And if that's the case, diversify your circle, which will help you understand some of the tensions. Just like we talked about the pain points, and the if my family, had stock in Chick-fil-A, like, you wouldn't know that you saying Chick-fil-A is the worst would be a pain point for me. So that's the beauty of, like, learning and knowing who's in your circle in your room. And if I'm like, man, all my circle is like old white males, or all my circle is all Latinos, or all my circle is whatever, let's diversify thinking pattern and be able to see how people are seeing different. But that's why I think,
and just be aware, like, you don't necessarily have to go find some white friends or some black friends and be inauthentic and, like, be like, well, where do I find diverse? It's just ask questions. There was a pastor 100%. I had to have someone that was a mentor. I had to have a very difficult conversation because he had said something really foolish on social media. And I was getting DMs from people like, oh, you're in relationship with this person, blah, blah, blah. And so I had to reach out to this pastor that's like a mentor of mine, and more so a hero. And we had an hour and a half conversation. And the point that I was making to him is, I was like, hey, because he's a white pastor, kind of white neighborhood, white, white everything, very vocal about, more kind of MAGA politics and stuff. And I said, here's, because he basically, his premise was like, why don't you just go more political, Adam? And I said, well, let me tell you why I don't go more political. Is because you're in an echo chamber where you are preaching to the choir. And I said, for me, where I'm at, the type of ministry I do, is I said, I am reaching people, and I was like, this isn't in like a braggadocious, but I said, our church, our ministry, our people, like,
from all walks of life.
We're reaching people from Hindu background, Muslim background, white background, Asian background, black background, Latino background. And I said, when you have a crock pot of people like that, what tends to happen is, for a lot of people nowadays, politics is pretty high on their center line of their web. And it's not even the knowledge of why they believe what they believe. It's just, this is what I think, this is what I've been told to think. And I said, so, I'll have people that will, become Christian. And I just said this to our church a couple weeks ago. I said, I've legitimately had people who have become Christian, and, husband and wife still swung with other couples, or people that become Christian and still went and hired for sex. People who become Christian who still go on, who are Christian, who are single, who still go on party cruises. And I don't first start addressing their behavior. I don't say, hey, we got to shake your behavior.
Christianity is not behavior modification.
It's not what it is. When I start discipling these individuals, I start talking about who our identity is Jesus. So I start working through their inner man. And then I say, now, given everything that you know about Christ, would Christ be involved in these behaviors? Mm-hmm. And when the answer is no, it's, well, we should shape our life more like Jesus.
Yeah.
Not change the behavior for behavior's sake.
Yep.
But we shift it and we change it because darkness has nothing to do with light, and light has nothing to do with darkness.
100%.
So if we want to be children of light, then we make conscious decisions that are ones that abide in Jesus, that bring us closer to Christ. And that is the decisions we're making.
Yeah.
They both, on the exterior, they both look exactly the same. On the exterior, you stop going on cruise ships and hooking up with random girls. On the outside, you stop calling, mail order women, to your car or whatever. On the outside, both of those look the same, but your drive is not based off, because Pastor Adam told me that I won't have God's attention, his blessing, his this and this, unless I shift this behavior. Instead, it's, I'm a child of God. Yeah. And if Christ has purchased my life from his blood, then as a son and daughter, I should act like a son and daughter, and therefore reject the things of the world.
So good.
And someone may say, "Oh, it just seems exactly the same." It's not.
It's not. No.
It's not when you actually understand what discipleship is. And so for me, when I'm having these discussions, so what I was telling this pastor was, what you're doing online is you're trying to shift people's behaviors. You're trying to shift people's the way that they vote or whatever. I said, for me as a pastor, I have to start with identity first.
Yeah, we care about eternity for the person.
Because where you're at is a Southern white culture where people grew up at church, people grew up in Sunday school. So they get saved or even call themselves a Christian. They understand certain behaviors come with it, and they're not going to argue with that. I said, where people, for me, they're coming from Islam, Buddhism, atheism. If I just all of a sudden I'm like, let's deal first with your politics and how you vote, they're going to be like,
what are you talking about?
What does it have to do with Jesus? Now, we may believe there's a connection to it, but that comes through as we understand a person's conviction. Yeah. Like I had a woman one time who DM'd me, and she was just like, I'm heartbroken. My life, she was in her late 40s. She said, I'm heartbroken. Your preaching has changed my life. I went into church, an atheist, no relationship with God. She said, through your ministry, your preaching, you've restored my relationship with God. God has used you to bring me closer to God. And she says, and then come to find out you are pro-life and you're anti-abortion. And I was like, well, yeah, but this is from a woman that was very far from God, and she didn't realize the connection of something that seemed to be political is faith. Now, here's the thing. If just every Sunday I was just like, boom, pro-life, pro-life, pro-life.
For sure.
That woman wouldn't have got 6 months into her faith journey. Now, how did she come to the realization? Because on that particular weekend, we talked about it. Yeah. And we talk about that stuff, we talk about this stuff, and I'll answer anyone. And if you join our church, we have this book of doctrines that we are transparent about all that stuff. So you can find everything that we believe anytime. We could send it to you, all that. Yeah. But what happened was she grew enough in her faith when I responded to her and I said, hey, I understand this may upset you, but let me give you some context. Let me give you some context about what God's word says. And then I said, and then let me give you a sermon on YouTube that I've done fully on abortion. Yeah. Which that whole sermon, I give you could just type in Patriot Church abortion, but within that message, I give a theology on why God cares about the womb, but I also weave in redemption for those who have experienced an abortion, who have had one. Yep. And that God can redeem, even you. That's right. For those decisions. Yeah. And I have one on sexuality that I've done. But this woman was like, thank you so much. I need to be, and she literally said, I need to be more open. Since I'm newer in my faith, I need to be more open to what my bias may be. Wow. Essentially is what she said. And she said, and I need to do some more homework about what God's word actually says about this rather than what my opinion, may be of it.
Which she wouldn't have done that if you had hit that from day one, most likely, walking in the church. And that's the thing you say every time.
And I'm just beating it over.
Then it's like, she would be like, what is this place? I'm going to leave. But you were able to, and that's the cool thing I would say about you and for us is, we're we're not afraid to have certain conversations that are right, but not in many ways, like you say, leading with like our heart. So like in Romans 12, where it says, don't be conformed, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That word, that transformation, right? In the renewing of your mind, that metanoia, that mind change, right? Yeah. In the Greek, instead of it being, a lot of times what happens is we want people from broken lifestyles, or people you have mentioned, people that have no church background, no Christian background, right? That are walking in. We want to change their behavior. So a lot of times people have said repentance, right, is that shift, right? That turning around. But the truth is, repentance starts right in that mind shift, and then it leads to our behavior modification. So what we want to do is we don't want to just pick the fruit off trees. We want to uproot the entire thing. Yeah. So because if you just pick the fruit off, more fruit's going to grow. And so many times for us and how we want to walk with people is we want people to know God's love, know his love, not work for his love, work from his love. And then from that place, I think of a story like in John 8 with the woman caught in adultery. Jesus silenced all the accusers. And then he said, where are those who accuse? And she goes, no one. And he goes, I don't accuse you either. And then tells the woman, therefore go and sin no more. Mm-hmm. Jesus doesn't say, hey, stay in your lifestyle, I love you the same. He says, I'm silencing the accusers, because that's what Jesus did on the cross. He made himself above Moses. And then what he does is in that moment to the woman, he says, don't live in that same lifestyle that produces death. Yeah. But she encountered Jesus' love and mercy and then had an invitation to walk away. I think of...
And I think, but to your point, like I think what's important is when you're discipling someone, because in the example you just gave, which is great, is that you have people who are actively participating in a sin that we know is keeping them from Christ. Yeah. And then you have ideologies, which you go into the letters, specifically the Pauline letters in the New Testament.
And it dives all into it.
And you have Paul coming from people's faith in Christ. Yep. He's shifting their ideologies on what they think about sacrifice, their ideologies about what they think about food. Yeah. He's shifting their ideologies about what they think about their body, because those are ideologies. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so you have individuals, because here's what a lot of people are trying to do, and a lot of pastors are trying to do, is they're trying to have ideological arguments every week as if people are, a large majority of their church is actively participating in that sin, and it's just not true. Yeah. So they're saying every Sunday I need to hit, the big four right now, which is whatever the news is talking about. Is it all the big four? Are we talking about immigration? I need to go on the pulpit and talk about immigration. If are we talking about sexuality? We need to go. Those are ideological things. Those are ideological ideals. If you're dealing with the scriptures or individuals who are in any type of sin or lifestyle, well, then you address that. But last I've heard, not too many times I've heard, to Heron's point on his, last I've heard, there's not too many pastors in America talking about gluttony. Right. There's not too many pastors in the South that drink a lot of whiskey talking about alcoholism and drunkenness. Right. There's not a lot of, leaders talking about, every Sunday they don't go, oh, I'm going to create a list of sin, because reality is when God's word's preached, the Holy Spirit convicts everybody of all sin that they have, they need to be convicted. Whatever their sin is. So true. And there's so many times people that have come to me and they said, hey, I'm in a same-sex relationship or this or that, and I want to renounce it. And I go, why? Because I wasn't preaching me out. They say, because when you, in the message for the past month that I've been here, every time I go to bed, God is telling me that I need to change. God is telling me, it's like, it's nothing in particular that in that moment I've said, but then they may have a clarifier. What does God say about sexuality? I'm like, that's great. Let me tell you. This is what it says. For sure. This is what the Bible says. This is what the Bible says about politics. Or I'll say, you know what? That's a really gray area. You're talking about immigration. That's a really gray area. There are in the Bible, there are both sides. There's compassion for a foreigner, and there's the necessity of a country to have its own walls. You see both within the scripture. So here's what I would say, and then I'll come in with a person. And so, but pastors nowadays, they don't want to say, hey, it's gray. Because we're told we got to have all the answers and
right or wrong.
We got to know right or wrong, and it's black and white. And that's nowadays not for a lot of things. It is black and white, and then there's a lot of things. It's not black and white. Hey, could I listen? Am I allowed to listen to secular music?
Yep.
Most pastors, a lot of pastors would be like, no, I think it's fine. I think you can listen to secular. And then they go, but you can't listen to Bad Bunny. You know, it's like, or this, or it's like
a style.
They have a style now. It's like, is it all or
this
nothing?
This is good, but this you can't. Yep.
Is it all or nothing? Well, as long as like I grew up, my dad would be like, my parents would be like, you can only listen to oldies.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't allowed to listen to modern music in the 90s.
Yeah.
We were only allowed to listen to music from the 60s and 70s. So one of my favorite songs growing up was Oh What a Night. So its lyrics go, I think it's by not Four Seasons, but Frankie Valli. And it's Oh What a Night, late December, 1963, something like I was feeling her and she was feeling me. And then he talks, basically now the song talks about him in the park and them having sex. But there's language to it that like a kid wouldn't know. I just think it's so funny that my Christian parents, because the modern music in the 90s was more like, I'm in the park and I want to sleep with you. This song was more like, I want to experience the breeze between our cheeks or whatever, you know, and it's like, well, that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
And that's not,
but it's the same
because
thing.
this is more vulgar. It's like, it's the same thing.
Same thing.
They're saying the same thing. It's semantics. And so it's us being more aware of like, we do regularly have this kind of hypocritical nature. Jeff T. Osborne in the house.
What up, Jeff?
As we're landing the plane.
Look at that.
Just that we got to be mindful of. Of what it is that we're prescribing, and does it fully match our conviction? Come on here, Jeff. We're landing the plane, bro.
We're landing.
What are you doing, dude?
Look at this guy.
Look at Jeff T. Osborne. He's got it. It's a sponsorship plug. Look at this.
Come on.
Sponsored by Painted Dough.
What up, baby? What up, baby?
How many locations does Painted Dough have now? Four locations. We got Chino. We got we got Chino. We got the Inland Empire. You got the Coachella Valley.
How many more? And then how many more?
This is dangerous.
We're franchising right now, so I mean.
Come on. Look at that.
Andy was sending a camera, bro.
Hey, I bought you guys our new Wagyu Smash. Breakfast sandwich.
A Wagyu Smash breakfast?
Smash breakfast sandwich.
I'm ready.
So we got all the donuts. I took the top of the top.
I'm ready.
Favorite, all of our flavors. Bro, what's up, everybody from Beyond the Letter? What's happening?
Come on.
Bro, we just we were just wondering, what do you think about Donald Trump? No, I'm just playing.
See, y'all set me up every time.
The mochi joints. Look at that.
Hold on. Let's see. Oh, yeah, these right here. Check these.
Look at that. Look at that.
Dubai.
Look at this.
The Oreo cheesecake.
Bro, and I just hit my weight loss goal. Not goal, but just... When we're done shooting, though, I'll probably just take a bite. Who's all this for? You just brought it.
I
know you got a meet. I know you got a meet. You got a meeting with H, or you had
H? Yeah. But I'm chilling, man.
Come on, baby. Come on.
We was just finishing our episode right now, bro. We was landing the plane.
He's talking about being on the pod too with Carrie.
Carrie Newhoff.
When's he coming on?
Not here.
I'm going on Carrie.
He's going again.
Yeah, you didn't hear this? Was it a different group text?
Bro,
same
what?
group text.
He will
tell you about it after.
Yeah, we'll tell you.
Yeah, I'll tell you about it after.
Let's go.
I think it was good. This was fun. I think this is fun, and I think back to even what you said, where I think we are starting to hold the line more with our we're holding the line more with people that are stepping out of pocket. It doesn't mean that you can't have strong opinions and styles, but don't say don't say like only my style works. And when you start to say that, there is going to be that accountability with other brothers and pastors. And then the last thing I was thinking for me was when Jesus, in Jesus' time, they always wanted Jesus to talk.
What the heck is this?
That's the sandwiches.
Bro, that's our breakfast burritos and our sandwiches. Our breakfast burritos like 1.5 pounds.
Oh my goodness.
Half a dozen eggs in every breakfast burrito, bro.
Oh my gosh.
We're gonna have some of that.
And it's still hot.
Oh yeah.
No, look at that.
That's that Wagyu Smash.
Look at that. Is that one game changer?
That dog. What I tell you,
it's like a burger.
No, it's
you got some hot sauce in there
smash.
too.
Come on, bro.
Come on, baby.
Is this a burger? Egg, cheese, Wagyu beef patty.
Yeah.
Or like
and
a potato
it's got a chipotle aioli sauce that comes with that bad boy.
Ooh.
I'll rebuke it in the name.
No,
of
you gotta
Jesus.
have one of those. At least one of them. And then we got these bevies.
Yeah, just a bite, some bevies.
No, I think for me it's like they always wanted Jesus to talk political. and Jesus would always talk stories. And even when you went, he goes, give to Caesar what is Caesar, give to God what is God. He would always use stories. He was asked, I think, a few hundred questions. He asked more questions. He answered directly 3 to 7.
Yeah.
Which is super fun. So I think getting the art of question asking, storytelling.
Understanding where a person's at.
Understand where a person's at, and then also look at Jesus and the Pauline epistles on how to navigate in the midst of this crazy culture. But
one of the first things we'll land and play with this, but anytime someone asks me a question, especially if it seems like it's like a controversial, not controversial, but more of one of those ones that hit people really hard, right? What do you think about suicide? What do you think about homosexuality? What do you think about abortion?
Yeah.
What do you think about Biden, Trump? My first always answer is a question, and the question is, I'd love to know why you ask first.
Good.
I'd love to know why you ask. And generally from there, that helps me understand where the person's coming from. Because number one, I don't want to be caught in, because here's sometimes what people say is because I think that we think the same way, and I've been disagreeing with this person, and I think if you give me the answer, I'm going to go say, well, Pastor Adam told me X, Y, and Z, and you're going to use it as a weapon.
Yep.
So I need to be more mindful, because like children have pivoted me against their parents before. Parents have pivoted me against their children.
Yeah.
Well, I went and talked to Adam, and he thinks that you're even stupid. Like, hold on, you didn't give me no context.
Yeah, for sure.
If I knew we were talking about your son, or if I knew we were talking about your mom and dad, that's a totally different answer, because you led me in to something that didn't have context.
Yeah.
And so, there's a difference in an understanding of, like, where is it coming from?
Yeah.
Like, I've had someone came to me one time, like, what do you think about suicide? Do all people that commit suicide go to hell? And which is kind of a traditional Catholic teaching and stuff like that. And so this person asked me one time, she was like in her probably 30s or 40s, like, what do you think? I said, oh, well, that's I start answering. That's a loaded question, but the average person would go, you would go, for the most part, the average person would go to hell who commits suicide, because, there would be very, the longer version is like, there's really like only specific reasons why a person would commit suicide, and a lack of hope, understanding joy. Now there's also now where you go for more theologically, there's chemical depression. There's things that is a part of a person, not their personal sin, the sin in the world, the mental health stuff. That's like the person could completely be a believer, but because of this chemical imbalance, it is feeding because of their sin,
they had
type
a psychotic
of thing.
episode, and then that happened for sure.
So there's a lot of right. So you start talking to a person, but a lot of let's just say I took a traditional route where I'm like, yes, which isn't true for me. All people that commit suicide go to hell, right? And it's like someone comes, asks, oh yeah, they do, and then they go and they start crying. They're like, oh, okay, thank you. Well, this woman comes up to me one day. She asks me, and I give the answer I just did. I said, well, there's chemical imbalance. There's also abuse. Let's just say someone's growing up and a parent every day is like, you need to just kill yourself. You need to just kill yourself. I don't even know why you're alive. I don't know where. And then that person does it one day.
Yep.
And then it's like, well, who really, just because they the person held the trigger on themselves.
Right.
At what point is that parent responsible
100%
for the way that they broke them emotionally, right? So I explain all that stuff to her. And I say, so I can't give you a right or wrong answer. And then I said, which I normally lead in first, but then I said, why do you ask? And she said, well, I feel with so much possible hope. My brother killed himself last week. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Good thing you had that answer.
I'm like, wow,
though.
I'm so good that I led with compassion.
Yeah.
Which something like suicide is something I would always lead with compassion, but 100%. Not every person would do that.
Totally. Some people just parrot their answer. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
Well, I've heard, or like, well, not everyone, but like, you'd have to be a really, sick Christian to want to, like this response that lacks love and compassion and care. And then for her after to be like, well, yeah, my brother just did last week and I've been wrestling with it. It was like, she had hope, and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm much more of an over talker when I answer questions. But reason why I do that is because I've found myself so many times with like situations where people didn't at first give the full context, and then as you're talking, they're like, oh yeah, because my sibling's struggling with this. And you're like, well, I'm glad I over-clarified because I wouldn't want your faith to be diminished because of my hardness of response. And just putting it onto like, well, that's just my personality. You just got to deal with it. It's like, well, no, like Bible does tell us to be full of compassion, and you look at fruits of the Spirit, and there's gentleness, love, self-control. Like there's a lot of things that exercise care and empathy, towards a person. And so I think more than anything, being more mindful of that. I don't think I've ever commented on someone's social media post. I've only ever took it straight to them if I did see something crazy. But also, it's not a bad thing. You put stuff on social media.
Except now we might be starting to comment a little bit more. Some of the people that usually don't, just because it's like, and it's like reaching out to the friends that are, hey, we got to talk about that. That was inappropriate. That was wrong. Tell me where you came from.
And that's happening a lot right now. We know a lot of friends right now that are calling each other out, which I'm like, good.
I'm like, praise the Lord.
That's how I like. Listen, I mean, we're all boys. Like, thank God y'all ain't that way. But we know with each other, if someone says something reckless,
we say something.
We'd be in a group text, be like, bro, what you talking?
Don't be dumb. You a liar, you know.
And Will Chung tends to be the most vocal on social media, even though he said yesterday he's toning it back.
but
there has been times I've screenshot his comment and I'm like, bro, you good? Like, what are you mad about?
Yeah.
And then he's like, I woke up fed up. You know, it's like, so.
And then we say, whoa, you're good, bro.
Yeah. You'll be all right.
Yeah, that's so funny.
All right, y'all. Thanks for joining us today. Hope it was it's a somewhat of a shorter episode, but that's the way it is sometimes. So I hope you all have a great week. When that podcast,
check it out
because I didn't make sure this episode didn't go too much into what I'm actually going to be talking about on that podcast. So when that comes out, probably the next episode, we'll link back to that conversation for those that want to hear about more topics I don't normally talk about on Beyond the Letter, even though I don't know fully where the conversation is going to go. We'll see. But y'all, Jeff, thanks for coming through, bro.
Come on, man.
Shout out to Pain and Hell.
Comment what you're most mad about us. No, just kidding. No, we love y'all. Thank you for the grace.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you have a great week. We'll see you next episode. Peace.